I'd been a heavy equipment mechanic for over 20 years, and I was good at my job. I knew those machines inside and out. For 15 of those years, I worked for a great company. We were a tight-knit crew, and my boss, a guy named Rick, was one of the best. He trusted us to do our jobs and didn't micromanage. If we needed a part, we got it. If a machine needed to be pulled from service for a major repair, he backed our call. Our fleet was the best maintained in the region, and our safety record was flawless. But then, Rick retired, and everything changed. His replacement was a guy named Dave. Dave came from a corporate background, armed with an MBA and a clipboard, but with zero practical experience. From day one, it was clear he thought we were all just greasy, uneducated grunts. He walked into the shop with this air of superiority, looking at our work with a disdainful sniff. His first brilliant move was to call a mandatory meeting where he announced his new efficiency protocol. His big idea? Cost-cutting. Drastic cost-cutting. He held up a spreadsheet and declared that our parts budget was out of control. From now on, every single part, no matter how small, had to be personally approved by him. No exceptions. We were also forbidden from buying new parts if a used or refurbished one was available, regardless of its condition or reliability, he said. And I quote, "A part is a part. As long as it fits, it works. Don't waste company money on shiny new boxes." We tried to reason with him. We explained that using substandard parts on multi-million-dollar machinery was a terrible idea. It was not only inefficient, but downright dangerous. He just waved his hand dismissively. "Just follow the rules," he said, with a smug grin. "I'm in charge of the budget. You're in charge of turning the wrenches. Let's keep it that way." "Okay, Dave. You want us to follow the rules? We'll follow the rules." To the absolute letter, the malicious compliance began almost immediately. A small bolt, worth about 50 cents, sheared off on a loader. Normally, I'd just grab one from the bin and be done in 2 minutes. But per Dave's new rule, I wrote up the work order, walked to his office, and waited for his approval. He was on a very important call, so I stood there for 20 minutes. He finally signed the form with an annoyed sigh. That 50-cent repair ended up costing the company nearly an hour of lost labor and machine downtime. This became our new normal. Simple 5-minute fixes turned into hour-long ordeals, all waiting for Dave's precious signature. The real test came a few weeks later. One of our massive D9 bulldozers, a real beast of a machine, was due for a major service on its final drive. This is a critical component. Basically, the transmission for the tracks. It's a complex, high-stress system. During the inspection, I found that the main sun gear was showing significant wear. The teeth were chipped and pitted. Any experienced mechanic would tell you that gear is on its last legs. If it fails under load, it'll explode like a grenade, taking the entire multi-thousand-dollar final drive with it. The only sane option was to replace it. A new gear was expensive, about $2,000. But it was a necessary investment. I wrote up the report, complete with pictures showing the damage, and recommended an immediate replacement with a new OEM part. I walked it over to Dave's office. He glanced at the pictures, then at the price. On the quote, he scoffed. $2,000 for one little gear. No way. Find a used one. I tried to explain the risks. Dave, a used gear is a huge gamble. We have no idea its history. If this thing lets go, it's going to cause a catastrophic failure. We're talking tens of thousands in damage, not to mention the safety risk. He just looked at me like I was an idiot. I'm not approving $2,000 for a new gear when I can get a used one for $200. My rules are clear. Find a used part. Then he added the kicker, and get it in writing that I ordered you to do this. Oh, I will, Dave. I most certainly will. So, I spent the next 2 days searching for a used sun gear. I finally found one at a scrapyard. It looked okay, but okay is not a word you want associated with a high-stress component in a 100-ton bulldozer. I documented everything. I took pictures of the used gear. I noted its source. And most importantly, I had Dave sign a specific work order stating that he had rejected the recommendation for a new part and explicitly ordered the installation of the used, non-certified part against my professional advice. He signed it without a second thought, proud of the money he was saving. We installed the used gear, put the D9 back together, and signed it off as ready for service, with a thick file of paperwork detailing every step of the process. I made sure every mechanic in the shop knew exactly what had been done and why. We were all just waiting for the inevitable. It didn't take long. About a week later, the D9 was up on the high wall of the quarry, pushing tons of rock. Suddenly, the radio crackled to life. It was the operator, his voice shaking. "Mayday, Mayday. I've lost all power to the left track. The machine is sliding." We all ran out of the shop and looked up. The giant bulldozer was sliding sideways down the loose rock face, completely out of control. It was a terrifying sight. The operator, a true pro, managed to drop the blade just in time to dig in and stop the slide. Just feet from the edge of a steep drop, he was shaken, but safe. The bulldozer, however, was not. We had to bring in a specialized crane to recover it, which cost a fortune. Back in the shop, we tore it down. The site was exactly what I had predicted. The used sun gear had disintegrated. It had failed catastrophically, sending shrapnel through the entire final drive assembly. The casing was cracked, the planetary gears were chewed to bits, and the bearings were destroyed. It was a total loss. The initial $2,000 repair had now become a full-blown disaster. The final drive was completely ruined. A new assembly would cost over $60,000. Add in the cost of the crane, the lost production time, and the labor, and the total bill for Dave's cost-saving measure was rapidly approaching $100,000. The next morning, the big bosses from corporate headquarters arrived. They were not happy. They came straight to the shop, and the plant manager asked me for a full report. I handed him my file, the file with the photos, the original recommendation, my written warnings, and, right on top, the work order explicitly signed by Dave, ordering me to install the used part against my advice. I'll never forget the look on the corporate boss's face as he read that document. He looked at Dave, who had turned a pale shade of green, and just said, "Dave, my office." Now, we never saw Dave again. He was fired on the spot and escorted off the property. The very next day, the big boss held a meeting with our crew. He apologized for the whole fiasco, tore up Dave's stupid rulebook, and promoted one of our own senior mechanics to be the new shop supervisor. The first thing our new boss did was approve every pending work order for new parts, no questions asked. The morale in the shop shot through the roof. We learned a valuable lesson that day. Sometimes, the best way to deal with a bad boss is to give them exactly what they ask for. Good luck with your next job, Dave. I hear they're hiring managers who are great at saving money. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story of workplace justice, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more. See you next time.